Welcome to Not for Pie Eaters. I'm John Dougal. Today's topic expands upon the video We and They Politics. We're going to take a deeper look at human political behaviors through the eyes of Friedrich Nietzsche and Dietrich Bonhoeffer. If you haven't seen the We and They Politics video, here's a link. I'll give a brief summary of that video. In that video, we had the following chart, and per Jonathan Haidt in his book, The Righteous Mind, the political mindsets of liberals, libertarians, and conservatives can be mapped to 6 distinct moral foundations. Liberals highly value the moral foundations of care, harm, and some would say that liberals are also prone to moral outrage regarding anyone or any organization that mistreats others. Liberals have the same sentiment regarding the foundation of fairness and cheating. Conservatives value these pillars as well, but to a lesser extent, and they also value authority subversion. It underlies the virtues of leadership and followership, including deference to prestigious authority figures and respect for traditions. Loyalty betrayal is sort of a one for all and all for one thing, where anyone who's not enthusiastic with the team is suspect. And then sanctity degradation is a desire to be pure and to avoid contamination. Liberals don't tend to value these 3 pillars much. And then we can't leave out the libertarians. The libertarians love the moral foundation of liberty oppression. It's a foundation of feelings of reactance and the resentment people have when they're feeling dominated. Just picture a libertarian that's going to put a small shed on his property, and he has to get building inspectors to come out and approve everything, and you're going to see one unhappy libertarian. Well, Carl Jung said that most people judge because thinking is too much work. I love that saying. It's so succinct and so true. It stands to reason, therefore, that in each of these 3 political groups, there's a minority who actually think critically on political matters. And the majority in the group obviously prefer not to think things through. They're not adherents to critical thinking. Well, in my parlance, non-thinking liberals I call mama bear narcissists, clearly a metaphor. A mama bear deeply cares for her cubs. They are an object of her compassion. They represent an object also of her anger towards cheaters and haters. As a non-thinker, a mama bear is all about her feelings, and she has sort of a tribal view of we and they politics. And everybody that thinks like her is one of the good guys. Well, in my parlance again, non-thinking conservatives I call moray-eel narcissists. And a moray-eel likes the safety of what it knows in its little cave. It lives there within its boundaries. And the moray-eel feels that what's within its boundaries are sacred ground and feels loyalty to what's inside. There's a love of order, and the eel feels love towards the police, towards troops, towards the leaders of organizations who protect what's within the boundaries. And then similarly, the moray eel feels that what's beyond its boundaries are relatively unclean. So the moray eel feels aggravation towards those who don't understand and support these feelings. It's the eel's tribal view of we and they politics. I jokingly like to refer to it as us's and them's. And all who think like the eel, they're the good guys. Well, both mama bears and moray eels share a few things in common. Both value feelings over reason. Both judge and then rationalize. And both are morally arrogant. Well, that's the recap. Now let's bring in Nietzsche and Bonhoeffer. Nietzsche lived prior to the existence of any communist state, but he was aware of the views of Engels and Marx, and he predicted the rise of communism and the subsequent mass extermination of dissidents. Well, as most people are well aware, between Stalinist Soviet Union and Maoist China, approximately 100 million people were murdered. And these were the dissidents within their own boundaries. Well, let's look more at what Nietzsche had to say. In Nietzsche's view, there was 4 types of men and 2 groups. 2 of the 4 types of men applied to higher human beings. And for the higher human beings, there are the creative geniuses and the higher man. Well, the creative geniuses are quite rare, almost like a stellar higher man. And the higher man is insightful, productive, industrious, and the higher human beings build society, and society benefits from their efforts. For the herd, there's 2 types, the last man and the slave. The last man represents a mediocre member of the herd who is relatively lazy compared to the higher human beings. And the reason for that is the last man values comfort and contentment more than responsibility and ambition. And the last man, to a degree, is devoid of useful creativity. Well, the slave is also part of this herd, but is additionally resentful. He feels powerless and blames the higher man for his own mediocrity. He won't look to himself for his personal responsibility and lack of action. Well, instead he looks to the higher man as a cheat. Anybody that has more and a better life, they must have somehow defrauded the masses. Well, the slave wants to lash out at the higher man under the pretext of achieving equality. Well, the last man and the slave are susceptible to empowering tyrants. Nietzsche saw this as an anti-natural morality that would reign over the Western world for the foreseeable future, and was to him the danger of dangers. It's a morality in which all individuals, even those with potential to rise above the mediocre masses, are pressured into becoming a smaller, almost ridiculous type of herd animal, something eager to please, to be part of the crowd, sickly, mediocre. Okay, now let's throw on my views on we'll start with the mama bear narcissists. Well, the mediocre masses are influenced by the resentful and the defrauded slaves. And you could look at the liberals who shun critical thinking as the herd. Think of Russian communism as an example. It has an exaggerated sense of care and harm. It's resentful in areas of fairness and cheating. And the mama bear narcissists, they eat this stuff up. So in Russian communism, it started with revolution, killing the immoral wealthy. And when society was established, redistributing the fruit of labor, from all according to their ability to each according to their need, and then imprisoning and killing the ideological dissidents. Okay, now let's look at the conservative side of things. Conservatives are all about patriotism and national pride, and for that we need Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer called the non-critical thinkers in Nazi Germany stupid people. He elaborated on that and said that they were really morally stupid people. Well, when you combine non-critical thinkers with a nationalist mindset, you get moral narcissists. And Bonhoeffer, in many ways, was like Nietzsche. He could see into the future before events unfolded. So he vocally opposed the rise of the Nazi Party. He could see where it was headed. And people often focus on Nazism, but more important is to focus on fascism, because the Nazis rose to power on the wave of German nationalism. They were the super race, and they viewed others as lesser races, and that their destiny was to rule over them. So with fascism, national pride and the goals of the nation are paramount, and National Socialism, or socialism for key industries, was just a way to help facilitate fascism. So in Germany, the moral narcissists gave power to the fascist tyrants, and through their love of the moral pillars of authority subversion, loyalty betrayal, and sanctity and degradation. Bonhoeffer saw the cruel castigation of non-ethnic Germans, and he was vocal about it. And so the Nazis imprisoned him, and he wrote about these things basically from prison. And he referred to these masses as stupid people. It's a misnomer, but there it is. His key insight to the root of the problem isn't found in the malice of the tyrants, but in the empowerment bequeathed to the tyrants by the morally stupid masses. The morally stupid person is possessed by slogans, is self-satisfied, and looks upon his moral feelings as superior to truth, fact, logic, or reason. So Bonhoeffer's stupid people, in essence, are akin to Nietzsche's mediocre masses or the herd, because the morally stupid people are found in both Nietzsche's mediocre masses, the last man. They're found in both the mama bear narcissist and the moray eel narcissist. And the last man loves conforming to society. He's overly agreeable, highly tribal, and he's devoid of critical thinking. Well, when you observe society, what do you see? The Democratic and Republican parties are marketing firms, and they set their advertising campaigns based upon the moral pillars of their party members, most of whom are members of Nietzsche's herd. So registered Democrats are mostly non-thinking mama bear narcissists, and the advertisements from the Democratic Party appeal to the feelings of care, harm, and fairness cheating. And the same goes for their favored forms of media, because mama bears like mama bear topics. Well, registered Republicans are mostly non-thinking moral narcissists, and so the advertisements from their party appeals to foundations of authority, subversion, loyalty, boy, you see that all the time, loyalty, betrayal, and sanctity, degradation. And the same goes for their favored media, eels like eel topics. Well, we've got one wisdom quote for the day. Jesus said, "Every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and every city or household divided against itself will not stand." That's our future with our present course, unless we stop acting like thoughtless mama bears and thoughtless moray eels. With wisdom and knowledge, there comes pain, because you'll see things that others won't see. And you'll be like the prophetess Cassandra, who could see into the future, but was cursed to never be believed. Well, if you found value in this video, consider sharing it with a friend. Thanks for joining. Cheers.